It's on you.
Is it going?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And they're just awkwardly looking at
It's
it.
fine.
It's going to be really enjoyable later.
I'm gonna go.
That's what everyone's for.
Okay.
Go.
So last speech I talked about media violence and the impact it has and the regulations that we should put in place in order to control those impacts that it has. I opened with a statistic from Common Sense Media that stated that about 90% of movies, 68% of video games, and 60% of television shows show some type of violent behavior. Large percentages mean that there are huge impacts and it plays a huge role in our society. So various times there have been people that have tried to place regulations on media violence and tried to put a stop to it or control it more, but they fell through because of some of the arguments that I'm going to be refuting today. So today I'll be refuting the three main arguments against regulating media violence, such as that there is no direct correlation between media violence and the actions that someone takes, that it's a parent's responsibility to limit what their children watch, and also that's just a part of what our world is today. So first I'm going to be refuting the argument that exposure to violent media has no impact on a person's actions. So FutureChildren.org defines a violent crime as someone who has been arrested for a crime classified by police as a major crime against persons, such as murder, rape, and assault. So violent crimes are obviously pretty rare because in order for one to be considered a violent crime, it has to be one of those things. So just punching someone isn't a violent crime, obviously. So not every person watching violent media or a violent television show is going to commit a crime. So if I go and watch the movie Saw, which I consider pretty much as violent as it gets, I'm not just going to go kill 1,000 people because I watched this movie or reenact the movie. But there has been correlation between watching these shows and it increases someone's chances of doing so. So this argument may be somewhat true, but it is an exaggerated argument. The New York Times did a study on the link between the two, which is exposure and the actions that someone takes, and they said that viewing violent media increases one's chances of acting out violently. Not for sure is someone going to act out, but it does increase their chances of doing so. There's never going to be enough evidence to prove that the people that shot up all the schools or that do all these things and murder people are just doing it because of the TV shows they watch, movies they watch, or the violent video games they play. But they do say that it does increase one's chances of doing so. So one study was posted on communication research, and specifically they found that exposure to media violence increased the chances that the viewer would commit actual physical violence in the short term or the long term. Another was posted in Psychological Science, and it analyzed the exposure of violent media and aggressive behavior among children. And the researchers said that these results clearly support the hypothesis that exposure to violent media poses a public health threat to children and youth, including college-age individuals as well. All these studies can be found at Evidence-Based Living. So although there is no direct correlation between violent crimes and exposure to violent media, there's proof that exposure does influence someone's aggressive behavior and increase their chances of committing these types of crimes. So the argument that media violence has no real influence is invalid. So the next argument I'm going to be refuting is the argument that it's the parent's responsibility to pay attention to what their children are watching on television and whatever else. So obviously, to first start off, not every child is in the ideal living environment. Not every child is living in a home with two parents that care about them and who discipline them and want what's best for them. According to childwelfare.gov, as of September 30th, 2012, there were 399,546 children in foster care in the United States. This isn't even including the children who do still live in homes with both their parents and their parents just don't discipline them or just don't care what they've got going on or what they do in their future. So it's statistics like these in the U.S., the argument that it's a parent's responsibility is easy to refute because not everyone is in these ideal living environments. With those children who have grown up in broken homes or those that are in foster care, they've experienced tremendous emotional damage, and they need some type of regulation to act in place of not having that parental guidance or that parental discipline. So creating regulations would benefit those children. Another aspect of this is teenagers. The older a child gets, the more responsibility their parents give them, and I totally agree with that. That's how it should be. I wouldn't want my parents to tell me what I need to be watching when I'm 20. But the thing is with this is that they lose sight of what their children are watching, and I know that in high school my mom didn't even really know what kind of TV shows I was into or things like that. And so that's just a prime example of that the older child gets, the less that their parents pay attention. So by doing so, they neglect the fact that their children maybe, most boys are playing those violent video games and they are not sure that of the impact that that does have on them. With regulations, they would experience less violence or see less violence than they see with the status quo of what society is like today. So now that I've shown you the flaws of that argument, I will be refuting the very last argument, which is that media violence is just a part of our world today and a part of our society. So shows like The Walking Dead and just shows like that prove that violence is attractive in our society today. People don't want to watch something that's just completely boring. But in the meantime, how pitiful does that sound that we don't want to watch a show unless it just includes someone dying or someone getting killed and massacred? So this argument may be correct, but I see it as more as an excuse for people to just continue to watch what they enjoy rather than care about, kids or the way that it's impacting other people. So let's think of what's let's think about what's on TV today, and let's think of the future. Just less than 25 years ago, these were the biggest shows that were on television according to TV.com. Cheers, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Cosby Show, and Seinfeld. The only show listed that included any type of violence or crimes or anything was Law and Order, and this is when it first started kind of coming out and becoming big. So let's take a look at what today's hottest shows are. So we have Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, House of Cards, Walking Dead, and the only one listed that didn't include some type of just bad violence was How I Met Your Mother. Within less than 25 years, there's been that much of a change. So let's just think about 25 years down the road and think about what we're watching today and what we're going to be showing our children or what our kids are going to be growing up on. When we make excuses for things like this, just saying it's a part of our society, that's when things end up bad, and that's when these shows keep continuing the way that they're going. And this is the only argument there is in order to keep regulations off of violent media, then I think that there's no excuse for it, because I don't even think that this is an argument rather than I think that it's more of an excuse than anything else. So in conclusion, today I refuted the three main arguments against placing regulations on media violence. I'm not saying we should rule it out completely because that's never going to happen, and also television would be completely boring. But what I'm saying is that there should be more of a limit on what can be shown because things get kind of bad. So by doing so, we're benefiting society and our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
speech.